is my third time recording this podcast. The first time it was while I was on my computer. The second time was in a car. And now I'm doing this on my bed at night when I just need to turn this in. So, the movie Vengeance. I needed to really find a topic. I think that was my main issue with recording this. I didn't have a topic. It was a bunch of ideas that never came together. Oh my god, I'm like Ben. But I think what I want to talk about most is actually Ben. So it's kind of hard to ignore Ben in the movie. I tried. He's the main character for one, but a lot of the way that the atmosphere, the movies, like music and feel, it surrounds how he's doing. We're kind of following his story through how he's feeling and stuff, which is, that's how movies work sometimes. Um, and Ben is just kind of the worser characters in the movie. He just kind of sucks. We are surrounded by a lot of interesting characters, like the older brother, Q. I think his name was Quinn, and Dove Cameron. I don't even know how many lines she has. I think she has like 5 lines in the whole movie. Anyways, but Ben. Fuck. He is one of the worser ones. Another bad character would be whoever the New York lady was. I don't know. She just made me mad the entire movie. And the reason why her and Ben made me mad is because they are just for similar reasons. Okay, I'll just start with her. She treats almost the whole podcast, like this whole case, as entertainment for herself, which granted it is meant to be entertainment, but it's also kind of a dick move considering that the podcast is discussing a real dead girl. Which, granted, there's a lot of dead girls out there, but this podcast is being made by someone who's like right there, who is like talking to these grieving people, and you are literally calling these grieving people characters. More gripes with her, but this isn't about her. My problem with Ben is just kind of he sucks. He really is like I recognize BJ Novak from The Office. I think a lot of us did. And by the way, I think it's a little funny that every single time BJ Novak makes a movie or TV show, he self-casts himself. I don't know. I just think it's weird. Ben is just what's his name? Ryan. He's basically just Ryan from The Office whenever Ryan wasn't on the show. And a lot of this is like from some of the stuff he says, especially that first little scene we meet him in where he's talking to his friend and he's just saying stuff that's kind of that was just very Ryan from The Office for me, okay? That just reminded me a lot of him because it's just very like trying to be introspective, even though these are things that we've already thought about, and also no one cares, and who asked. Even when he goes and talks to New York Girl, we kind of see that he has a lot of ideas, but no real story because he has a bunch of ideas that everyone already thinks about, and also no one cares about what you have to say. And we don't see him as sad or depressed, but we see his life is kind of sad. He's kind of being a little, and I'm gonna slut shame him, I don't care. He's being a little slut. He's going around screwing people, and he just doesn't seem happy or content with anything, which I understand having a hard time being content with things. But dude lives in New York and kind of a nice apartment, and you're making podcasts. It's not even like it doesn't even seem like he's unfulfilled. It just seems like he's being a little brat, but whatever. I don't know. I have my gripes. Anyways, so I'm not gonna go too much into describing what happens in the movie. Ben is sad, or is a sad person. He's not sad himself, but he's just a sad human being, I guess. He's doing his thing, gets a call from this girl he used to screw, her brother, gets a call from him saying that she died. He goes to the funeral, Texas, because that's what you do in that situation, even though so basically, this family thinks that Ben's the boyfriend, which we later find out was due to Abilene hiding a relationship from her family and other people. But, like, Ben's not really her boyfriend, so I don't know why he felt the need to go down to Texas, but it's whatever. Ben, he goes down to Texas, goes to this funeral. It's really awkward. He's about to go up. Then the brother's like, let's solve this murder, because now it's a murder, even though it was put in the system as a drug overdose. And it was a drug overdose. She ended up being a pill popper, even though literally everyone thinks she wasn't. I don't know. That's where... This isn't about Abilene. This is about Ben. And then Ben takes this opportunity to capitalize and suckle on the content titty that is this tragedy that has befallen this family. As you do. So, Ben calls New York Girl and starts a podcast, and then that's where we go. So, a lot of this, we see Ben being extremely, like... At the first part of the movie, he definitely treats the family a lot like a New York Girl treats the podcast, where he kind of views them as more characters. He doesn't really, he's not very empathetic towards the fact that this is a dead person and these people are grieving. He's just like, so, why do you guys like Whataburger? I don't know. That's just, what he does. And it's kind of weird, so that's just a weird thing Ben did. I don't know. But he goes on to interview this other guy named Quentin, who is infinitely more interesting. But we also see, I just want to talk about what Ben does. So when he gets to Quentin's place, because he's like a music producer, he's got, he's behind the setup, and then there's a girl in the thing, she's singing. And Quentin's doing his job, by the way. This girl, she's missing something in her singing, so he's trying to kind of pull that thing out. He is doing his job, and Ben's sitting in the corner, basically tapping his foot, impatient, after he went to someone's job to ask them questions. And, it turns out when we go to someone's job, they might be, doing their job, but it's whatever. Oh my god, my mic is really low. I fixed it now. So basically, now that Ben's talking to Quentin, and by the way, he hears Quentin say some interesting stuff, we see that Ben realizes Quentin's a very interesting human being, so he pulls all that stuff out of him and adds it to the podcast, and then says some commentary to make himself interesting. And we see this a lot in the movie, where Ben will take something interesting, like the grandma, the older brother, Quentin, insert other characters. They'll say something interesting that catches people's eyes, and then he has a little commentary on it, and almost he doesn't take credit for what they say, but he almost takes credit for what they say in a way. Because here's the thing, Ben's really uninteresting. His opinions are just boring, and so he's using other people with new opinions to, make himself seem more interesting. And that's just kind of a thing I don't like about him. And he's not even self-aware about it. He almost, he almost takes credit for the whole thing, and it's weird. It's just really weird and creepy. Especially when he, oh, people in my class are gonna see I have a Food Wars poster. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. I was a different person in 2020. Don't look at it. I'm moving. I'm going to throw it away. Oh my god. Okay. Anyways. So, I lost my train of thought. Shoot. Okay. Uninteresting. And he's just an uninteresting guy. I don't think there's any other example. I don't know. Basically, the podcast, New York Girl's eating it up, and he's starting. At this point, we see that he does become a little bit more empathetic towards the situation, because he's realizing that these are real people and not characters. And then people blow up his car, which I think is really funny, because that almost suggests that, he's getting too close to the truth. But then we later find out it's because he supported a different college, which that's so funny. I just think it's funny because, I don't know. And he also goes way too out of his way to fit in. He doesn't take time to learn from other people. He tries to act like he doesn't need help by going on Shazam to learn a song. He doesn't go to ask and be like, hey, I don't know this song because I'm not from Texas. He goes on fucking Shazam. Oh my god, stay up. Okay. He goes on Shazam for it. And then he also goes around school. He's just he goes out of his way to fit in a lot, which is weird to me. Because he doesn't want to be disliked. He is constantly going out of his way to be liked. Because he wants people to see him as a good person. And can we also be brought back to in the beginning of the movie when Ben is like, gets the original call from the older brother. He is like, he doesn't bring himself to say like, oh, I was like, we weren't really dating. He doesn't do that. He, instead just goes because he doesn't want people to dislike him. And this is a thing we see with Ben a lot. We see it with him so much in this movie. And I could talk about the ending. I could talk about how it makes sense for symbolism, but not for that, I believe that the ending does make sense for symbolism in the sense of how the whole podcast works, and then it ended up backfiring on him. But it also doesn't make sense from a movie standpoint. Maybe if you were writing a Shel Silverstein poem, the ending makes sense. But I don't know. That doesn't have much to do with Ben's character, other than the fact he shoots Q, which doesn't make any sense for his character. I don't know. I'm sure we've already all tackled that one to death, so I'm not gonna touch it. But just in this movie, we see this character almost get people to say things that are interesting, and oh my god, this is gonna be so annoying. He gets them to say things that are interesting, and then when they say it, he almost takes credit for it by like cutting them off, and it's just he almost controls the whole conversation like a little fucking puppet master with strings. I'm sorry I'm swearing to this. I'm just he does that. He tries to make himself extremely likable, even though because he's extremely unlikable. He's also really dumb. He doesn't really make much effort to solve the mystery. He just follows the little trail that people give him. He doesn't think for a second. We need to find out her passcode. Does anyone know 4 numbers that were important to her? If he had just asked if he had everyone in the family what are numbers that were important to her, he would have had a set to work with. They would have been in the phone already. But he didn't. He just kept going where the podcast took him. He didn't even bother. He didn't even try. And it's really annoying. At least. And he also I'm just going to go on out on a limb and say that he has I'm going to say that he probably has a somewhat disrespect for women. In the sense that he just looks like it. And he just kind of gives off the vibes of it. So I'm headcanoning it now. I think I've hit a lot of these points I wanted to say. But then again, I feel like I'm missing a lot because a lot does happen in the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. It's an okay movie. I didn't get bored. So there's that. I had to charge my phone for a second, so sorry. Tired. So back to what I was saying about the movie. It's not a bad movie. It's an okay movie. The characters are likable. They kind of balance out Ben's unlikability. But I'm sorry. I'm totally trying to pull out my train of thought that I was at like 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. I've been doing stuff. A lot of, I guess I can just kind of summarize, what I was talking about, So Ben, unlikable. He's kind of he has a sad life. He pulls a lot of, he's not interesting himself, so he surrounds himself with interesting things like the podcast. At first, when I was talking about this, actually in this recording, I was seeing he surrounds himself by interesting people, which we can see that as evidence in like New York one earlier, like I guess earlier in the movie when he surrounds himself with someone who kind of agrees with him and kind of has the same philosophical opinions as him. And then we also see it with New York Girl. She's somewhat interesting considering she kind of runs a fucking podcast thing. I'm so sorry for the swearing in this. But he does surround himself with interesting people back home, but then he also he also surrounds himself with interesting things like the podcast, this topic, because he needs and it could be, the want for something interesting, for new things, but I think personally it's because he's uninteresting himself. And so he's trying to make himself interesting. That's my little theory, but but yeah, that's my little theory. I don't have much to say about the movie. A lot of what I'm wanting to say, I feel like has already been said or will be said or whatever, because I don't know, not a lot happens. A lot of it I could just summarize in 5 minutes, and like, it's a good movie, and I have a little bit more to say about the symbolism of it, but I also don't really care enough about the symbolism of it because the symbolism of it is very simple. And it's almost like I'm reiterating what the movie did the whole book, because they like cover somewhat of the symbolism of it. The whole point is like, the whole point of Ben's podcast is he feels like, and I don't know how he tied it in with the podcast, but the whole point is that he feels people are disconnected. And so the podcast is meant to bring a reconnection. But then at the end of the movie, when Q has his whole little monologue, we realize like there's a disconnection. There's going to be a disconnection your way because Q is right. He says like, they're going to see me as a hero at some point and you as the villain. So we see there that, the whole point failed, so he deletes the podcast to just kind of say, I failed. That's my theory on that. But like I said, that ending's good if it's a Shel Silverstein poem, not if it's a movie. But yeah, no, that's the symbolism. I just described it in like 2 minutes. I would rate this movie about 4 card decks out of 5. No, 4 card decks out of 10. It's an okay movie, and that's as far as it goes. It's a movie. I could show it to my grandmother, who is dead, but if she was alive, I could show it to her, and she'd be like, "Wow, that's really deep, and good for you, Nana. Good for you." 'Cause it's deep to the extent of a sink. It gets as deep as a sink. It is deep, but it's pretty shallow deep. But yeah. I just want to say thank you for listening to my podcast. It's very last minute, and that's because I'm gonna be honest, I was a little nervous because this is like the first time I'm gonna be like recording something that's like me, and then like people are gonna see it. That's a little nerve-wracking. But we're all probably gonna forget about this in like a month, so it's fine. If this hair would just stop getting in my face. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast that definitely exists, and do go check out Vengeance. It's not the worst movie. It's not like a waste of time. It's got some interesting points. Watch it for Q. He's cool, and the older brother, so that way it doesn't seem like I'm just trying to support the one character. Watch it for Dove Cameron. Just watch it for Dove Cameron. She does a line dance in it. And yeah, that's the end of it. Thank you for watching Podcastination. I think I need to design a cover for this. I'll do that tomorrow. Very on theme. All right, bye-bye.